Hello everyone, welcome to week 6. We are in chapter 6 as you know, and we are actually going to talk more about responsive design when we are designing for basically tablet or desktop devices. So in this chapter, some of the main goal that you need to put in your mind is that you need to be able to understand and use media query expression. Also, by the end of this chapter, you should be able to explain the design principles of a tablet website. Also, you should use and be able to insert a media query to be able to target tablets viewports. You should also be able to create style rules for tablet viewports. Also, by the end of this chapter, you should be able to explain the design principles of a desktop website, and as well as insert a media query to target the desktop viewers. We will also discuss how to create a style rule for desktop viewports. Also, we can identify and modify breakpoints, and as well as explain pseudo classes. We will also apply the pseudo classes to a website, and also we will talk about linear and radial gradients. We also should be able to talk about apply a linear gradient to a web page for a desktop viewport. So let's begin this chapter. Let's review some of the things in chapter 5. In chapter 5, we talked about the responsive web design approach, style, content that is differently depending upon the type of device that we use to view the site. We talked about the mobile first approach, which can focus on styling the content that is maybe appropriate for mobile devices. Also, it uses a single column layout that it can prevent horizontal scrolling, and it can minimize the vertical scrolling as well. This layout, the mobile first approach, creates a more enjoyable experience for our user and mobile devices. The design process for a tablet and desktop display allow more flexibility with the web page layout. In the tablet design, we can use 2-column layout though, because the screen is bigger. And in a desktop design, we can use multi-column layout, again, because of the size of the screen that we have. Media queries, basically, they are very important when we are designing responsive web design, because they let you customize the layout of various viewport sizes based on, what you need, if you need a mobile or tablet or a desktop. So if we take a look at the mobile first approach, we use the media queries to be able to create the desired look for tablet and desktop viewports. So, we take that approach and then we move on to the bigger size. Maybe you remember from the previous chapter, we used the media query to be able to detect the media type, such as their screen or print, and then the capabilities of the device that the browser is running on, such as maybe the size of the viewport in pixel, or maybe the orientation of portrait versus the landscape. So based on the information, the media query applies the style that works well for that situation that we are actually talking about. Also, media query, they allow us to apply different CSS style in response to that environment. Media query can also apply styles to move, hide, or maybe display the content on the page, maybe change the text or the colors of it, or maybe they can add any other style to make the page easier to read in a particular situation. If we resize a web page and see the navigation system change, or see a multi-column layout reduced to 1 column as the viewport narrows to the size of a phone, we know that the media queries are working behind those scenes to be able to restyle the web page in response to the viewport size. So the media queries, they can be linked they can be embedded in the link tag that connects an external style sheet to an HTML file, or they can be actually inserted in the external style sheet by itself. So in this following code, you can see that a basic example of a media query which has inserted into the link tag of the HTML page. So this is how you are showing it. So you're putting the media query into the link of this to the style sheet. So what is this attribute, the media attribute in here? It actually shows which style sheet should be applied. So in this example, the style.css style sheet is found in the CSS folder, will be applied if the web page displayed on the screen. So if the web page is displayed on the screen. And in here, the styles print.css style sheet will be applied if the media, or if it is set to print, or if our web page is being printed. So this is normally a very common technique that the developers, they use to style with the colors and images on the screen. The next thing that we will talk about is breakpoints. Media queries, they can do more than detect the current media type. They can also determine the size of the viewport, the viewable portion of the web page. So to understand the code and syntax of how a media query can detect a viewport size, we can set a breakpoint. The breakpoint is where you apply different styles to the web page to cause it to change the way, to make it easier to read or basically navigate in a situation that you are in. So if you are looking at that web page, maybe you're using a mobile phone or something. So this table 6.1 lists the common viewport sizes that are out there for the small smartphone devices. For the tablet, larger smartphone devices, you can see the maximum and minimum width, and then the tablets, and of course the larger sizes. Now let's talk about media query expressions. A media query can use a logical expression to actually test whether a viewport has reached a particular breakpoint. This expression could include the name of the media query features, a characteristic of the environment, and also a breakpoint value that it needs to be tested. If the logical expression evaluates to true, the media query applies this style. So let's look at the example here. We have an example here that this code basically can direct browser to use the style mobile.css in the CSS folder when a screen have a breakpoint port width smaller than or equal to 480 pixels, which is a common maximum viewport for a phone. And in this case, the maximum width is the feature, and 480 pixel is the breakpoint value that is being tested in the logical condition. And then in this example here, we are also testing for both the minimum, and in here we are testing for the maximum width that is going to have maximum breakpoints. So in here, like if we put the and, then we are actually looking at the style sheet, the style tablet.css style sheet in the CSS folder when the screen has a viewport between 480 pixels to 768, which is that 768 is the breakpoint size for the tablet devices. So when we are testing for minimum and maximum width, the word and separates each part of the media attribute. This means that each part must be true, so we have an and condition. So true and true, so that it can be true. Also, so our logical expression, both sides has to be true to be able to make the change. So as I said, each part should be true to apply the associate styles. So in here also you can see that when we actually put the syntax for sure we need to make sure that we put a parentheses and use a column to separate the media query features from the value that is being tested as well. So this is something that you want to keep in mind here, that we need to put these parentheses in there, and you need to put the column in there as well. There is another way as well to implement media queries, is basically to code them directly into a single CSS file using the @media rule. So the three most common type of medias are basically screen, print, and all. So if you look at your page 260, you can see when we put the @media, then we put the screen. If we are showing it on the screen, and then you open the bracket, body, and then you put the width 80%. If you are printing it, then again, you use the same format. So you can view it on page 260. And this following table here that you can see lists common media query features that can be used in a logical expression. If you need to find the whole explanation of media query syntax for media types, you can look at the w3.org website. It gives you more option as well. The next thing that we are going to talk about is adding the mobile media queries to basically an external style sheet. In a mobile first strategy, we list the mobile style first because they are basically the default styles that are actually there. Next, we can use the media queries to add a style for larger viewport. We start from tablet to desktop. We can also include the laptops as well. The styles created for the smaller viewports apply to larger viewports by default. To modify the appearance of an element for a larger viewport, we create a media query for a larger viewpoint, and then we can create a new style. So we actually use the @media only screen. If you look at page 260, one of your book, you can see the example in there. So in order to change the appearance for a tablet viewport, we can create a new style for the navigation list items, and actually we use the display property with value inline to display the links in a single line. So this rule can apply only to viewports with a minimum screen width of 481 pixels. The next thing that we will talk about is designing for tablet viewports. So as you know, now more and more people, they are using different sizes of tablets, and we have a lot of various sizes of tablets that people are using. So it's very difficult to design a one-size-fits-all layout for basically a tablet devices. So when we use a responsive web design and media queries, we don't need to design multiple tablet layouts to accommodate this kind of various sizes. Instead, we can create one layout to target the tablet viewports. If a particular tablet device has a viewport smaller than the minimum size that is specified with the media query, the layout will default to the mobile viewport layout. So this figure is actually showing the code to create a media query for a tablet viewport. So in here you can see on line 100 that we have a comment, media query for tablet viewport targets screen size with a minimum width of 481 pixel. And in here we just put the code media only screen and minimum width 481. So you wonder why 481? Because a common breakpoint for mobile devices is actually 480 pixels. So the media query applies the tablet styles starting at a viewport of 481 pixels. That's why we put that there, because other than that, it would be a smaller size, which would be mobile sizes. The next thing that we will talk about, we will discuss about page design for a tablet viewport. Now let's talk about page design for a tablet viewport. As we mentioned, the tablet viewport is larger than a mobile viewport, but it's definitely smaller than a desktop viewport. The larger screen provides us the opportunity for our website to display more content, and also we can use multi-column layout. Tablet user, they expect to see more content than mobile user. They still expect the website to be very friendly, and that means that, you know, they and sometimes because for the tablet people, they want to actually touch the screen. So we need to design based on, you know, where they want to touch it, and it needs to be very easily accessible to go to the next tab and things like that without zooming a lot. So when we are designing for a tablet viewport, we maintain the same color scheme, typographic, and basically general look of the website. The appearance of the website should also look the same from the viewport to the viewport. The only thing that should change is basically the layout and placement of the content. To determine the ideal layout for a website tablet viewport, we first review the mobile site to determine where content should be added and whether any content should be hidden. Now let's look at the navigation design for a tablet viewport. If our users having a hard time navigating through the website in any viewport, they are more likely to become frustrated and basically leave our screen. So the design is basically needs to be tailored to the navigation needs of a smartphone users. So because we talk about that the tablet screen is generally larger than smartphone screens, maintaining a vertical list of navigation buttons, it may not be necessary. Instead, we can take advantage of the screen width and align the navigation button in kind of a horizontal line. This frees up some space for the main content below the navigation area, and it can improve the visibility by displaying it in the middle of the screen. To accomplish this type of a design, we create a star rule to display the navigation list item as a single horizontal line when displayed in a tablet viewport. We can also add other properties and values that can override the defaults that is already been set for the mobile viewport. This figure 6.5 basically shows the code to style the navigation area for tablet viewport. So in here, the line 104, you insert a comment that says style specify a horizontal display for navigation link. And then on line 106, you put display inline to add a property and a value. And then on line 107, you type float left to add a property and value. And then you put in line 108, margin left 1%, 109 margin right, and then 110 padding left, and then padding right, and then the width, which is the 18% on line 112. And then on line 114, we are going to actually close the bracket for media query closing bracket. We just put that. So what is the purpose of the float property with the value of the left? Basically, that value improves the appearance of the navigation link by placing each list immediately after the previous list item. With other properties such as float left, improve the horizontal centering of the navigation button. So why do we add the margin properties? The default right and left margin for navigation lists are basically 0.3 EM. Setting the margin left and right to 1% increases the margin in the tablet viewport, and that means that you take advantage of increasing the space and making the navigation button look less cluttered. So what's the purpose of using the padding property? The default left right padding settings are 0.4 EM. So remove the padding on left right by setting it to 0. After the setting the width property, the list item no longer need additional padding in there. And then why we use 18% for the width? We want to navigate the link to equally distributed across the navigation area. Because the navigation area is set to 100%, there are 5 navigation links. So we divide 100 by 5, which becomes the width, which becomes 20%. And then we subtract the margin. We had 1% for left, and then we had 1% for right. And then you get the 18%. That's why you put the width 18%. You need to do a little bit of practice to kind of get the understanding of how to how to have these kind of percentages here, and how to make it appear at the place that you want it to appear. So it's a little bit of playing around with it to make sure that, you know, when you are designing it for tablet, it's different than desktop, and it's again different than mobile users. So this figure 6.8, actually it shows the code to style the style sheet main element for a tablet viewport. So we have on the line 115, we have the comment. In line 116, we type main and open bracket. And then line 117, we press clear left to adding the property value. And then line 118, we put margin top 4 EM. And then we are on line 119, we close it. So what does the clear left do? It clears the float to the left of the main element. So the float was specified for the navigation list item, and clearing the float displayed the navigation link above the main element rather than within the element itself. So again, why do we need the top margin? The default top margin is 0.5 EM. Increasing the top margin to 4, it can add a space between the navigation button and the main content area. And you can see the changes on page 266, how it is applying to the Forward Fitness Club. So again, it's a little bit of playing around with this so that you get it for the tablet viewport. The next figure shows the code to show height content of a tablet viewport. And in here again, you start with the comment, and then in 122 you put .mobile, and which displays the rule for the mobile class. And then you put the desktop on line 127, so a style rule for a desktop class. You can put that in there. And then you can save your changes. So that content will style based on the, if it's a mobile or if it's a tablet or if it's the desktop. In the next part of the video, we will talk about designing for desktop viewport. Okay, Bye for now.